Hello, believers, non-believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Sapphire. I am Sapphire Sandalo. Now get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. Time Traveling in a Dream, submitted by Myles. Hi, at the Sapphire. My name is Myles, and I'm from the Philippines. I have been tuning into your content for over 8 years now. It's just funny to think that I've been an avid listener to your show and podcast, and I always thought there would never come a time that I would have something to share, because me and my family do not really experience paranormal stuff. At least, up until when my grandfather died, last April of 2024. So this actually happened last year. I've just now found the time and courage to write about it. Well, here it goes. The last thing I remembered before drifting to sleep was the peaceful sound of my electric fan, humming as usual. I checked my phone to see the time, 2:43 a.m. Oh, nice. It's 2 a.m. yet again. Great job, self. You stayed up late for no apparent reason. Again, I thought to myself sarcastically, because ever since summer started, I did nothing but ruin my sleep schedule. Anyways, little did I know that unlike any other nights I slept like that, something was about to unfold that would stay with me for the rest of my days. "Ineng, where are you going to drop off?" a man's voice said. "Huh? What do you mean?" I replied, confused. "I said, where do you want to be dropped off?" Jesus Christ, how would I know where you live here in Bayabas? That woke me up. And then before I knew it, I was in a pedicab. Yes, I was in a pedicab with a driver asking me where to be dropped off in Bayabas CDO, my hometown. He was calling me Ineng, a popular phrase used by older people in Bayabas when addressing teenage girls like me. And then it hit me. I'm in a lucid dream. I looked up to see Manong driver throwing me weird glances. Oh right, he was asking me where I'll be dropped off. Now, fully aware that I was dreaming, I decided to go with the flow. "Oh, sorry, mister. Just drop me off there at a Sabuga store." Now coming to a stop, I stepped out of the cab and handed the driver my fare. From there on, I could feel the chill from the surroundings. Looking down on my pajamas, I realized I was wearing the same exact pajamas I was wearing when I drifted to sleep. I then inspected my surroundings. I couldn't tell the time exactly, but it was definitely late afternoon, maybe 4 or 5-ish. But this was Bayabas, all right. I was flooded with nostalgia from all the memories I made in this place. My older brother and I were practically raised here before moving to Salay. Anyways, I went to the store, Ila Sabuga. This was a big store where me and my kuya used to buy sweets and snacks all the time. I peeked inside the front of the store, and yeah, sure enough, I saw the old owner, whose name I can't even seem to remember, but I sure do remember her face. A thought then came across my mind, like, what if I visited our old house? I was curious to see what it would look like. If I go there, would the house be empty? Or would I see the past versions of us? Would the house even be there? The last thing I heard about it was demolished way back in 2017. Only one way to find out, I guess. I was walking along the highway. Our house was still a few blocks away. As I was about to cross the road, I saw a man wearing a thick coat, smoking a cigarette. He was wearing a black cap, obscuring his face. I probably wouldn't have paid attention to him, but he was the only other person on the street. I found that very weird since this used to be a very busy road. I figured there'd be no harm if I approached the man, since this is my lucid dream. I could wake myself up if something happened. I was about to come near him when he looked up at me, and I was suddenly frozen in my tracks. I forgot how to breathe for a second. It was my Lolo, the one who passed last year. There he was. His face was younger, wearing that signature black hat that I now own after he passed. I couldn't believe it. The man that I'd spent countless tears on these past few months was alive and in good shape right before my eyes. I started crying. I stood there frozen for a minute, but then decided that I wanted to run away. This was too much. I couldn't face him in my dreams like this. As much as I wanted to run into his arms and hug him for dear life, I didn't want to be fooled. It was too cruel. I was about to turn the opposite way, but then, "Why are you here, Mai?" A voice called out. In my 16 years, that voice belonged to the only person I consider my true father, despite having a biological and stepdad. That was it for me. I was now crying uncontrollably. He recognized me? This was a dream. But no, I threw logic out the window and bolted to him as fast as I could. Scared that he might disappear again, I hugged him tightly and sobbed like I was a little girl again. "We miss you so much, Pa." "I know. Me too, Mai. Me too." I had so many things to say, so many things to ask him, but I just stayed hugging him. And he patted my back all throughout. I lost track of time, and when I finally calmed down, he spoke again. "I guess it's nice that you're here. Might as well accompany me then," he said, and then chuckled. "Accompany you where, Pa?" "It's your older brother's 6th birthday today. I'm just delivering this roasted chicken. Let's go together." And with that, we stood up, and I clung to him as we walked. This was a dream, all right, but I was so vividly close to him as if he was really by my side. I was still sobbing. I decided I wouldn't let it sink in for a while that I'm in a dream. I want to make myself believe that he was really here with me, even for a brief time. As we were trudging the pavement, he spoke yet again. "Mai, I'm sorry that I wasn't there at your completion ceremony. I know how much it meant to you for me to be there. I'm really sorry." "It's okay, Pa. That was just a completion ceremony anyway. It wasn't even in college," I said jokingly, but I noticed him smiling sadly. As we were heading down the path to our old house, it was getting a bit dark. Then, my Lolo suddenly covered me with his coat. I wondered why he did that. But soon after, the rain started pouring heavily. So that's why. We finally reached our old house, here in my dream. It was the same as ever, the 2-story home me and my brother were first introduced to. My Lolo told me to cover myself so that they wouldn't recognize me, and I thought, so who wouldn't recognize me? He knocked on the door, and my dad opened it. He took the chicken from my Lolo's hands and said, "Thank you," and before he could close the door, my Lolo said, "Just let me greet my grandson too, Jewel." My dad cracked the door open a bit more, and there we were. The childhood version of me and my brother, watching some cartoon on our old rundown Sharp TV. A chill ran down my spine because it all felt too real, as if I was really time traveling. Younger me looked right at me. I don't know if she recognized me, but I knew she was looking at me with curiosity. How I wished I could talk to her, though. Tell her how lucky she was, forever stuck in a timeline where my Lolo was still there. After all the adults exchanged words, they bid us goodbye and told us to go home. Hesitation was evident on my mother's face, as she really didn't want my Lolo to go home yet. She wanted him to come inside and stay for dinner. Unfortunately, my dad wouldn't let her. They've had a rough relationship ever since. I just failed to notice it at the time. But really, my Lolo was so pitiful looking there because in reality, he was alone, trudging through the rain late at night in order to give my brother roasted chicken for his birthday, only for my cruel father to not let him in our house and have him return to Salai alone. Can you imagine? He worked hard on cooking that chicken. He spent money for fare to come all that way, and my supposed dad didn't even let him pass the doorstep. That's just a cruel thing to do to an elderly person, or anyone in general. As we returned to the highway, I didn't want to separate with him yet, but he insisted that I should go back to where I belonged, whatever that meant. I was so hesitant, but he still bid me goodbye, kissed my forehead like he used to. And then the last thing he spoke to me was, "You already don't exist in this timeline, Mai." And then with a smile, he let my hand go. And almost instantly, I was back in the pedicab, now heading away from Bayabas, away from him. I woke up, for real this time, back to reality, the reality where he didn't exist anymore. I felt my eyes water again. When I told my mom about this dream, she also started crying because everything I described actually happened. On my brother's 6th birthday, in December of 2012, my Lolo showed up at the door with a roasted chicken, and my dad turned him away. I honestly don't know what to make of this, Ate Sapphire. Is this just a simple manifestation because I have been yearning for my grandfather nonstop for months since he passed? Or is it something totally different and has something to do with my beloved Lolo from the other side? Hoping to get some insights from you, and with luck, possibly from the listeners too. That's all, Ate. Daghang salamat. Thank you so much for your story, and I am very sorry for your loss. So this is gonna sound random at first, but I promise it's relevant. I recently saw this video on Instagram of Miley Cyrus talking about the time that she had an EMDR session. It's a type of therapy that's said to help release trauma. You're put in somewhat of a hypnotic-like state, and the therapist asked her, "What is the feeling of anxiety that comes up for you when you're performing?" And she said, "I just want them to love me so bad." And then he asked, "When was the first time you felt that way?" And she felt like she was time traveling back into the past, and she was transported into the womb of her biological grandmother. So it was like she was her mom. And as her mother, she could hear the people outside talking about putting her up for adoption. And she could feel her thinking, "I just want them to love me so bad." There were some other things she mentioned, but when she came out of that trance, she never had stage fright again. If you want to watch the full clip, I'm sure if you search Miley Cyrus EMDR, it'll pop up. But I'm bringing this up because your story sort of reminds me of this. Because EMDR is kind of like time traveling. You're revisiting not only moments of your own life, but the lives of those in your family whose DNA you share. And to me, it sounds like whatever pain and hurt caused your dad to not let your Lolo come inside, whatever's causing that is still affecting you and your family. And I think this dream was your Lolo pointing that out to you so that you can be the catalyst for change. So maybe that's through you doing EMDR, your dad doing EMDR, maybe it's through an ancestral healing with a healer. I don't have the answer, but I think that's what the purpose of this dream was, to show you that those distant feelings that your dad has with your Lolo, you also inherited that, not with your grandpa, but for your dad and for your stepdad. You're still so young, and there's still so much time to heal all of these generational wounds. And I wish you the best.